Oh, can you hear that?
Can I hear what?
Oh, a train was going by.
Oh, no, I couldn't hear that, but it's fine. We can wait.
Do.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah, still going.
I hear the train a-coming.
Night train to Mondo Furnace. Get on down to the night train to Mondo Furnace. But still going. That's a big train. You could unless there's a YouTube video that is drops of Jupiter 10 hours. This is the biggest train in existence. This time we watch Season KTMA, Episode 8, Gamera versus Guiron.
This movie was made in Japan.
I understand it's big in Japan. Hold me tight.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty big in Japan. We'll get to Japan in a little bit, I suppose. Happy Gamuary, Adam.
Happy Gamuary. We're recording this at the tail end of Gamuary because nobody was in the mood.
It's been a month. We've both been really busy.
Yeah.
What's new in the exciting world of MST3K?
I know that recently the Mads, because they've been doing like rebroadcasts and stuff, they recently did, and it'll be quite old when this comes out, they recently did a rebroadcast of their Brain from Planet Arrows episode, which I think is one of the funniest ones they did. Please support your local Mads. They're really good.
They also did a night of shorts.
Yeah.
Number 6. I haven't had a chance to watch yet.
I haven't. I'm a little behind on these, but like again, we've been watching these pretty frequently. I mean, the last one I saw was the Manos re-riff that they did the previous month, and yeah, brilliant, absolutely great. It's Trace and Frank. What more do you want? And often a special guest.
Exactly. Yes, it's not just you, dear listener, that we've been a little neglectful of.
That's true. Trace and Frank are worried.
Also, I guess there's been some updates about the new MST3K coming out through the Kickstarter updates. And I guess they're gearing up to do the last filming for the season. Link in the show notes if you don't know where to look for this sort of thing. But you probably know all about this. You don't listen to this podcast for news because we are quite late when we report it. But I will say that as somebody who gave money to the Kickstarter for the digital pack, that also included some riff track stuff. Mm-hmm. I guess I get like a movie and a short and maybe something else and maybe a free month of Riff Tracks Friends, whatever that is. I'm very confused by it all. I don't know what I should grab. Probably something with Bridget and Mary Jo, but
Probably.
But I guess listeners, if you have a recommendation for what I should use my free Riff Tracks reward on, I guess write in or tweet at me and let me know. Maybe there's something that would be useful for some movie that we haven't done yet, or maybe there's just like a really out of the ballpark great one that isn't at all upsetting.
Yep, that address is Riff Tracks, What Gives? Scruff McGruff, Chicago, Illinois, 60652.
I feel like that's all of these sort of updates I have this time around. Did you have a good holidays?
Mostly. The good parts were very, very good, and that was 80% of the trip back, and the bad parts were really bad.
Oh, no.
Ugh.
I had the exact opposite thing. I had a very 45% all the way through great taste of holidays, where I stayed at home, and Omicron started getting big, and I was stuck inside, and my husband was off visiting family, and it was just me and the cat, vaguely getting out of bed every few days.
Damn.
Kind of the dream.
Sure. Sure it is. Chris, do you have dreams about being in a coma?
Yes.
Oh, like that kid from the Odyssey. CBC's The Odyssey, of course.
All right. Or like Akio in today's movie for like a few minutes.
I thought you were going to say like Akira, like you were hoping to turn into meat.
I'm already made of meat.
No, I mean, he gets really meaty. Have you not seen Akira?
I have seen Akira. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But you gotta get that original dub where like Tetsuo is Leonardo from the Ninja Turtles, because that's the only dub I'll accept.
I feel like I've watched it with subtitles, but
that's not how you're supposed to watch Japanese cinema.
Sure. Speaking of Japanese films, let's talk about Gamera vs. Guiron.
If we must, we must.
This time we watched KTMA Episode 8, Gamera vs. Guiron. Surprise! There's another planet in our solar system that orbits exactly opposite the Earth around the Sun. And the aliens on this planet, which is called Terra, have sent a spaceship to Earth. And two boys, Akio and Tom, see the spaceship landing as they watch the night sky through their telescope. And they go check it out, along with Akio's little sister, Tomoko. And they have a really memorable encounter with a neighbor whose name is Kondo, aka Cornjob, as they're going off to see the site. More on that later, I guess. The giant turtle Gamera, friend to all children, helps Akio and Tom out as the spaceship that they poke their nose into suddenly closes its doors and starts flying through the asteroids. And eventually, the boys zoom too fast for Gamera to keep up with them, and they leave him behind as they land on the planet Terra. And there, our old friend Gaos, or rather, Gaos with a paint job, now called Space Gaos, appears, as well as a new friend, a creature with a long knife for a head, our titular good boy Guiron. They fight, and Guiron wins. Tom and Akio explore this new planet, and they meet two alien women, Barbella and Florbella. They are the last Terrans on the planet, and they're facing extinction because of all those Space Gaoses. Also, it turns out that the women have a taste for human flesh, and so they try to eat Akio and Tom. And after some hijinks, the boys elude the hungry women and call out for Gamera to come save them. When Gamera finally arrives, the women sick Guiron on him, and, as is traditional in these movies, Gamera is knocked out. Barbella and Florbella get into the spaceship and try to escape, and the boys accidentally release Guiron, who attacks the flying spaceship and slices it in half. Barbella gets hurt in the fracas, and Florbella euthanizes her. And then Florbella tries to escape in a rocket, but the boys figure out how to send missiles after it. Anyway, eventually Gamera gets up, defeats Guiron using his turtle styles, which include some gymnastics and some go-go dancing. He welds the ship back together, the boys get in, he pops it into his mouth, and flies back home. And the boys land safe and sound. Back on Earth, no one has been believing little Tomoko's accounts of how her brother got abducted, but it turns out everybody should have been listening to her, and maybe to all children, all along. And so, Tomoko has her revenge. The end.
Meanwhile, on the Satellite of Love, we begin with another pre-credits teaser announcing that this is indeed an encore presentation. I'm so glad fans tape these episodes so we can see cute little stuff like this from the show's earliest and least watched days. The Rerun Prologue is not so much different than the last time they did it, but it's Joel, Tom, and Crow instead of a Servo solo performance. Kinda cute. We begin today's show with bad news. Joel cops to this episode being yet another Gamera movie. The bots lament their existence. Down on Earth in Gizmonic Institute, the Mads tease the SOL crew, and they assure Joel that turtles are going to be big someday. Also, the Mads have compiled a list of movies they're going to send Joel, including 2001: A Space Odyssey and Star Wars. Fun fact, we also learned that the SOL's engines are powered by Nielsen ratings. In our second host segment, Crow and Gypsy create a Freaky Friday for the Mads. Now Dr. F and Larry are stranded in space, with Crow residing in the Gizmonic Institute. Larry dubs the spaceship the Satellite of Loathe. Has life got flipped turned upside down for our heroes and villains, fresh princes one and all? No. For you see, it was but a dream, and Joel wakes Crow up. In segment 3, Joel and the bots discuss dreams. Tom dreams of being serviced by beautiful women, and Crow dreams of being Jed Clampett. Also, a surprisingly direct political jab. Joel informs us that the real nightmare begins when we return to our 5th Gamera experiment. Nice try, Joel. Imagine this being the 9th time you're talking about Gamera for a podcast because you insisted to your skeptical cohorts in 2017 that doing 2 of these a year for 5 years was a great idea. I flew too close to the sun on wings made of turtle meat, everyone, and I'm deeply sorry. Beth was right to avoid these like the plague. Come segment 4, Joel talks about his dreams. Recurring dreams include being groovy and standing in line for Metallica tickets. Gypsy, or Gypsum as she's known here, reveals that she's programmed to dream only of Joel. I guess this is before she developed free will and started dreaming only of Richard Basehart. In the final segment, Gypsy, Crow, and Joel sing Satellite Love until Gypsy goes off script. And much to the relief of viewers and podcasters everywhere, Joel promises no more Gamera movies. What a dream episode! But wait, they never recovered this KTMA episode. Or did they? Maybe it was all a dream. Maybe this is not a dream. And this is a TV broadcast you're receiving from the year 1989. Joel was right. Sometimes a dream is just a rerun, and sometimes a podcast is just a show. The end.
Okay. All right. We're doing this. It's Gamuary. We like Gamera. We like Gamera movies. We just don't like to have to keep thinking of things to say about them. What did you think of the, let's say, less good of the two Gamera versus Guiron episodes?
Yeah, there's a hot take. So I had to watch this episode in 2 sittings because
I watched it in like 5.
Yeah, that I believe it. I completely believe it because this one's a little rough. While the host segments are pretty fun, the riffing is non-existent and nothing funny is said ever. But here's the thing. For the first half, I tried watching this like an MST3K episode. I understand that it's a KTMA. I understand that those are highly variable, but sometimes they're good or sometimes they're interesting. But this one isn't. And I was getting really frustrated and really bored, and I just stopped. Then when I restarted it from where I left off, I just started watching Gamera versus Guiron, and I kind of stopped paying attention to the rips, and I had a much better time because this is the best Gamera movie, and so I could enjoy it as such. And so I ended up having a bit of a good time, and then it's like, oh, and the movie gets broken up for these fun little spoofs and goofs with Joel and company. Great stuff. Much more enjoyable. Watch it that way if you must. Also, please don't watch this.
So I get where you're coming from. I get that. I found myself going through some similar phases in terms of how I was approaching watching it. I also found that, like, if I was going to watch Gamera vs. Guiron, I would want to watch like a nicer print of it, maybe one that isn't cropped to hell.
But then you lose the Sandy Frank dub, which is half the charm.
That's true. No, I definitely don't want to lose the Sandy Frank dub, which is astonishing.
It's so good.
Just all the wrong choices all the time in the best possible way. But also because, like, as you say, this is the best Gamera movie, and it's also got the best Gamera episode, which we're going to do next time. Spoiler. Mm-hmm. And yet they do such a poor job with it this time. It was sort of hurting my memories of one of my favorite episodes. It's just like, no, don't do a bad job of this movie. I know you can do better than this.
Yeah. I was really hoping that watching this would be akin to listening to some of the Beatles anthology stuff. Like there's this great a track on Beatles Anthology 3 where Paul McCartney is noodling around trying to figure out Rocky Raccoon, which is a song I like. And he kind of fucks up the lyrics and cracks himself up. And it's like, obviously they shouldn't have released that version, but I'm glad that version is commercially available because I really enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
This is not that.
This is not that. This isn't even like some of the other KTMA episodes that we've looked at where it's just like, not the same, but just a little bit different and kind of interesting for being different. Mm-hmm. Sort of like, I don't know, Time of the Apes, I guess.
Or even Gamera versus Zero, where you could kind of hear them piece together the Gamera song that's going to become so prominent in season 3.
Yeah, exactly. No, this is just a lot of unfortunate jokes about Japan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's again, it's the casual racism. It's not the worst thing you have heard. It's very familiar for anyone who has watched any content that was made in the 80s.
Although technically this was their job, so was this not business casual racism?
Great. Good. I think good. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I don't know. It's unfortunate, and I'm sure they would cringe to hear what they had said if they watched this now. And you know, I can imagine that's also one of the reasons why these KTMA episodes aren't going to get professionally released anytime soon. In addition to being basically real hard to watch, they're just really problematic.
Yeah, they can be. They can be. Luckily, we've had some good ones, but yeah.
Oh yeah. Sorry, there's enough problematic episodes, and this one is pretty bad. Not the worst thing they'd ever do.
Really, it's not.
I mean, it's no incredibly mixed up yada yada yada.
Oh, I thought you meant of the KTMA era. That's why I'm like, what?
Oh no, this is probably the worst of the KTMA era that I've seen so far.
Yeah, that's what
I don't know what else is hiding in wait, but and it's sort of I don't listener, you can obviously judge for yourself if it's that bad if you decide to watch it. It is like that one scene from Back to the Future 2 times a lot.
Yeah.
The host segments are fine.
They're pretty fun, and like I said, it's like at the very least, we get the best version of Larry in the KTMA. Well, actually, that's not true because it's like I actually really liked returned/reformed Dr. Larry Earhart when he showed up in season 12. That was really fun.
That's true.
But yeah, this is the best of him as a regular.
Yeah. What else is there even to say about this episode? Not much.
Oh, I do have a question. Oh, actually, I do have a comment. A comment because you mentioned how Gaos returns, but this time it's Space Gaos. Do you ever wonder why that is?
It's budgetary reasons, isn't it?
Oh no! Fun fact. Gaos was being relaunched in the popular consciousness. This, you might say, was a bit of a backdoor pilot for a kind of an adult talk show with Gaos.
What?
Yeah, it's a fun fact. Have you never heard of the Adult Swim Japan show Space Gaos Gaos to Gaos?
God. I knew it was heading somewhere like that.
Worth it, everybody.
Good. I don't know what to do with that energy that you've just thrown at me.
The episode didn't give us anything. I thought I'd try to bring something to the table.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. We could talk for a little bit about the dub. Do you have any idea why the dub is like that?
Well, I mean, it's a Sandy Frank dub, and they were all a little quirky.
Yeah, but this is not anything compared to the other Gamera Sandy Frank dubs we've seen.
I can only assume that they just stopped hiring professional actors at a certain point, and they just got friends of Sandy Franks. It wouldn't surprise me to learn that both of the aliens were voiced by, I don't know, Sandy Frank's wife.
It's also apparently just an incredibly over-literal translation of the script.
Well, yes, there's that great sequence where they're explaining what they're going to do to the kids. We must shave them so we can access their brains. We are going to eat. Why? Well, because the brain is the source of all knowledge. So if we consume it, we will also receive that knowledge. Right. And that is an exchange in the movie.
Yep. Which, I mean, there must have been something like that in the original script, but not as wooden, perhaps. No. And certainly not full of all those little grammatical markers and conversation markers that show up in Japanese that don't have direct English translations. We don't just say hi as often to each other or yes or whatever. It just threw in everything without making it fully English, which also led to just weird choices, weird pauses in the middle of everyone's speech that didn't work.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the characters said hello more often than Lenny or Squiggy.
So I know that last time we were talking about some of the classic Gamera films, and you described some, which it turns out we're going to get to watch real soon. So
yay!
There will be 11 Gamuary episodes, I suppose. But and I know that there were some Gamera movies after that, sort of in the 90s and such. Yeah. And even up to today, they've been making them.
Have they?
Well, up till recently. When was the last Gamera film made?
I think it was 2006. It's called Gamera the Brave, and it's interesting because the 90s movies are your darker, grittier, edgier Gamera, let's take this silly thing very seriously. And Gamera the Brave is no, let's just make a 60s movie on a budget.
They are planning on making another one, in theory. In 2014, they announced that they were going to be making a new Gamera movie.
Yes, and I think I saw a trailer. Maybe this was fan-made, I don't know. But there was a very nice-looking Gamera sequence where Gamera was like trodden through the town destroying stuff, and it looked great, and it said, new Gamera coming soon. But that also might have been just a proof of concept, or again, that might have just been a very convincing fan film with someone who like really knows what they're doing.
Yeah, they made a proof of concept trailer, so that's probably what you saw.
Yeah.
But so in theory, we could be getting more Gamera any day now. Who knows? But we've been busy. And I didn't want to make you have to sit through a bunch of other Gamera movies. Not right now. Not in 2022.
Yeah, you would really need the Ludovico technique to get me to watch those.
So I thought, let's go a little bit off script. And I thought, let's see what the nice people in the exciting world of fan fiction have written about Gamera. I wanted to find some real good Gamera porn.
All right. Well, who knows what he's hiding under his shell? Is Gamera a grower or a shower? Let's find out.
Well, I would like to say that I found out because I went to all the usual sites. I went to Archive of Our Own. I went to fanfiction.net. I went looking around for the Gamera fanfic, and that exists.
Wow.
But none of it is erotic. Almost none of it. Very little of it is. Basically, he makes an appearance in a Godzilla and Mothra are spending a little time apart, and Mothra is encouraging Godzilla to have a little fun while she's gone. So she hooks up with, who was it? I forget. Ghidra? Something like that.
Oh, Ghidra the three-headed dragon?
I think so. I think they make some fun with that. But at some point while she's looking through her little black book, she considers Gamera amongst some other ones and says, nah.
Okay, that's gregreat.
So that's why Gamera got tagged in that one. I was like, oh, that's it? That's no good.
That's actually great.
It was pretty good. There were some other things, of course, and mostly they were sort of telling other Gamera stories about Gamera getting into fights and describing the fights, or maybe some of the stories behind some of the people, or people who might have known Gamera. I didn't care about any of this. It's fine if you do, if you really want some of the backstories behind some of the human characters in the Gamera films. But there was no Gamera love. There was nothing like that. I also did do a quick Google search for Gamera erotica.
Mm-hmm.
This led me down a garden path of links that I'm not going to leave links to in the show notes. But basically, there is an erotic storyteller from the Usenet forums, if you know those erotic repositories and such, who went by the name of Kenny N. Gamera.
Oh, no.
None of the stories, as far as I could tell, had anything to do with actual Gamera content or actual Kenny content, for that matter.
Okay.
It was just the name that they liked to go by.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't necessarily recommend you check this out either, and I'm certainly not approving of it or anything. I'm not saying one way or the other. People have their kinks, and people enjoy stories, and some of those stories are things that we wouldn't want to see happen in real life. But just saying, there's no actual Gamera content there. So first off, please, listeners, some of you must care about Gamera. Some of you must wonder about Gamera's more, I don't know, sensual moments. Please populate our fan fiction sites with some adult Gamera content, just so that future podcasters don't have to kill time as badly as this.
Yes. And, if you're looking for inspiration, may I recommend a clip that is very YouTubeable from the long-running podcast Comedy Death Ray, aka Comedy Bang Bang, in which a songwriter who just rewrites the Monster Mash comes on, and he performs a song called The Monster F***.
Nice.
And which features the line, "It was a graveyard f***."
Of course.
And there's all sorts of descriptions of monsters getting sexy with each other, and it's probably the best bit from that entire very uneven podcast.
But I thought that's not there, and I thought maybe we should write our own little Gamera fanfic. Maybe not porn, because while this is not a family show, nevertheless, our listeners have heard us getting real blue recently. So,
So you want a breather from that? Starting 2022 fresh?
Kind of. But I thought maybe we would write a story with an AI engine.
Okay.
And if you want to feed me prompts, I'll type them into the engine and then I'll read out. And basically, you'll give like a sentence or a leading sentence, and then the AI Dungeon is the name of the app. It will come up with a few sentences of the story. So I'm starting it off here.
Okay.
Once upon a time, there was a boy named Kenny and a giant turtle named Gamera. They were best friends. Do you want to provide like a little start of a next sentence?
All right. Gamera and Kenny tossed coins into a wishing fountain.
Okay. Once upon a time, there was a boy named Kenny and a giant turtle named Gamera. They were best friends. Gamera and Kenny tossed coins into a wishing fountain, and whoever got the bigger coin would get what he wished for. They had been friends a long time, since they were both just kids. They went to the wishing fountain every day, and they always made the same wishes.
Luckily, Gamera had his lucky dime, which he had stolen from Magica Dispel.
Stolen from Magica Dispel. I don't remember how you spell Magica Dispel.
I think Magica is spelled with a K, and Dispel might be one word or two words. I forget.
It's spelled apparently it's spelled with a C, and it's DE space spell.
Oh,
surprising!
Wow, wild times in Duckburg.
Luckily, Gamera had his lucky dime, which he had stolen from Magica Dispel. He always got what he wanted, but Kenny never had anything. In fact, he often went home to his mother with a pocket full of pennies.
Kenny's mother offered Kenny the only thing she could: discipline.
She could.
Let's see where this goes.
Kenny's mother offered Kenny the only thing she could: discipline. Every day, she whipped and punished him because she didn't have anything else. Eventually, she sent Kenny to a foster home where he lived with a mean old woman and a fat kid who smelled really bad.
The fat kid's name was Gamera.
All right. The fat kid's name was Gamera. One day, when Kenny was 12, his mother told him to go into the woods and chop down a tree.
I cannot tell a lie, said Gamera.
Said Gamera?
Yeah.
Okay. I cannot tell a lie, said Gamera. Oh, now we get to choose. I cannot tell a lie, said Gamera, so pick between these two.
All right.
You'll be in big trouble, boy. I won't, said Kenny. I know this tree has poison oak, so the bees will kill me. Bees don't kill people. Or, I cannot tell a lie, said Gamera. That boy is too stupid to be a thief. When he gets older, he'll probably be a pickpocket. I'll whip him good. When Kenny got home, his mother gave him 2 coins.
Bees.
I think bees. Okay. I cannot tell a lie, said Gamera. You'll be in big trouble, boy. I won't, said Kenny. I know this tree has poison oak, so the bees will kill me. Bees don't kill people.
I do, said Kenny's mother.
Oh, okay.
I hope she turns into a bee.
I do, said Kenny's mother. You better get going. Fine, said Gamera. But if you get into big trouble, I won't be there to save you. I won't need your help, said Kenny.
Kenny proceeded to put on his bee costume.
Now, sometimes you can also just give it like half a sentence or the first few words of the next sentence.
Kenny proceeded to?
Well, you could do that, or you could do, Kenny proceeded to put on his bee costume and was surprised when...
All right, let's do that.
Kenny proceeded to put on his bee costume and was surprised when he remembered that his boots were a pair of fuzzy dice. He ran into the woods where the tree was, but when he arrived, he could not find the tree. He looked all around. He looked all around him and saw nothing but dirt.
Kenny did what any boy would do and proceeded to eat the dirt. And
Kenny did what any boy would do and proceeded to eat the dirt. And soon his belly was as big as a soup pot. Then he tried drinking it, but it was so thick he could not get enough.
He tried drinking his stomach?
Or the soup? Or the dirt. I don't know.
Kenny decided they all must pay.
Okay. Hopefully we'll get Gamera back into the soup. Kenny decided they all must pay. The next day, when Gamera came over, Kenny had a big purple welt on his bottom. The skin was thick and greasy like bubble wrap.
Gamera likes it thick and greasy on Archive of Our Own. Gamera turned to Kenny. I have to go now. My planet needs me.
Gamera turned to Kenny. I have to go now. My planet needs me. Gamera turned to Kenny. I have to go now. My planet needs me, he said. You'd better come to noontime or you'll be in more trouble. I don't care. You'll be in trouble, said Kenny. They really understand that Kenny says, "I don't care" a lot.
Yeah, they've nailed that character. I thought that would lead to an ending.
There's no ending to this.
Well, let's try. My work is done, said Gamera.
My work is done, said Gamera. Meanwhile, Magica Dispel was watching this with great curiosity. She was a powerful wizard, and she was the only other person who knew about the wishing fountain.
It ends on a cliffhanger.
They all lived happily ever after, except for... They all lived happily ever after, except for Magica, who is miserable. She thought about taking her 2 golden caps and using them to make herself a pair of super soldiers. One she would make a general, the other a president. And there we go. Some very lovely fan fiction. Aren't computers neat?
Yeah, you know what? This is great. This is almost as good as when someone fed a bunch of rom-com plots to an AI and they started making their own Hallmark movie. And it's like, Christmas is canceled unless you give me lots of kisses, was one of the lines.
Some of those aren't real, of course. Some of those are made up by comedy writers.
But it's fun to play pretend.
Hey everybody, it's time for the Shallow 13.
It's time for the Shallow 13. 13 short facts and fancies about today's experiment, Gamera versus Guiron. Go at 'em, go!
In the opening, Dr. Earhart reminisces about a kind of soap he grew up with.
And Fuzzy was, the soap that grew hair out of it. That was great.
Our soap always had hair on it.
Fuzzy Wuzzy Circus bath soap is straight out of the 1960s. These bars of soap were shaped like bears, monkeys, tigers, and other circus animals. Fun! Also, if you left them on the sink for a few days, they grew hair. Fun?
Kids were supposed to be enticed into washing their hands by the attractive fuzzy soap. But if that wasn't enough, there was a toy surprise waiting inside each one. Sort of like a Kinder Egg or a Cracker Jack box. Wash your hands obsessively and you'll be rewarded with a soap-encrusted whistle.
Jokes came slower back in the KTMA days. Check out how long it takes for the riff to come in this clip.
Look at the speed meter. It's getting faster all the time. I wonder why it's getting faster. Because of remote control, I guess.
Wow, we must have taken Evelyn Woods.
Evelyn Wood popularized a system of speed reading that, in theory, allowed you to read 3 to 10 times faster, all while improving reading comprehension and retention. The Evelyn Wood method was taught in institutes run by the Evelyn Wood Reading Dynamics Corporation. There were about 150 in the US at one point, and 30 in Canada.
The Evelyn Wood method was heavily advertised throughout the 60s, and it didn't hurt that John F. Kennedy touted how much the course had helped him. Nowadays, there's a lot of skepticism about whether speed reading is even possible, or if it is quote-unquote just skimming. Now, certainly a skilled reader can't read a complex text at 10 times normal speed and expect the same level of comprehension and nuance. But then again, a lot of books have been written in order to be skimmed.
As Akio and Tom go down the People Mover, a spy cam tracks them, and Tom says,
It's Alan Funt.
Alan Funt, of course, was the longtime host of Candid Camera. For those who don't remember, Candid Camera was a show in which ordinary people were put into extraordinary situations, with lots of hidden cameras filming how they react to the weirdness.
Usually, the Candid Camera setups were basically practical jokes. For example, they once set up a fake Canadian border in the middle of the US and had passengers sing "Oh Canada" if they wanted to pass through. Eventually, they would turn to the confused drivers and say the catchphrase, "Smile, you're on Candid Camera," and then I guess get them to sign waivers.
Sometimes the pranks would backfire. A classic gag was to have a beautiful woman with 2 suitcases ask passers-by for help moving them. The prank? The woman would pick up the empty one and carry it with ease, and have the stranger try to pick up the suitcase laden with 200 pounds, or 90 kilos, of weight. But they tried this scenario in Moscow and, well, one of the strangers just picked up the heavy suitcase and carried it off no problem. Wah, wah.
Another time, they rigged a pair of escalators so that they both went up, stranding everyone who took them on a landing. Well, one woman would have none of it. She slammed the emergency stop button, turning the escalators into stairs, which she proceeded to walk down no problem. Womp womp.
But the pranks could also backfire in more meta ways. Alan Funt and his family were taking a flight to Miami, which was hijacked and flown to Havana. Yes, that weird trope actually used to happen. Funt said that the passengers recognized him and assumed the hijacking was an elaborate prank. Womp womp.
Now, that story got exaggerated over the years, to the point that people claimed that the passengers gave the hijackers a round of applause, and flight attendants were popping champagne and looking forward to being on TV. All of that? Not so much. In fact, just a handful of people recognized him, and Funt himself admitted during the flight that he was just as nervous as everyone else. Wah wah.
As Joel talks with the bots about dreams, Tom says,
Well, I dreamed that a stupid, young, inexperienced, bumbling senator from Indiana gained access to the White House just because of his rugged good looks.
Oh, that's not a dream either, Servo. That's a nightmare.
This is an early joke about Dan Quayle, who was inaugurated as vice president under original-style George Bush a few weeks after this episode aired. Quayle came up in the first KTMA Gamera episode, Gamera vs. Barugon, when Crow and Servo sent him some pizzas.
James Danforth Quayle was an easy target for stand-ups and late-night hosts. He did not come off as particularly intelligent, and in fact he famously got his ass handed to him by Lloyd Benson in the vice presidential debates, when, after comparing himself to speed-reading John F. Kennedy a few too many times, Benson delivered the immortal line, "I served with Jack Kennedy. I knew Jack Kennedy. Jack Kennedy was a friend of mine. Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy."
He continued gaffing his way through his single term in office, saying things like, "The Holocaust was an obscene period in our nation's history. No, not our nation's, but in World War II. I mean, we all lived in this century. I didn't live in this century, but in this century's history." Correcting a 12-year-old's spelling of potato in a spelling bee by telling him there should be an E at the end of the word, and picking a fight with fictional character Murphy Brown for her crimes of being a single mother. Thankfully, the GOP learned their lesson and never elected anyone so underqualified and unthoughtful to the White House ever again. Oh wait, I'm being told.
And that's time!
Fun stuff, fun stuff. So Chris, did you find yourself traumatized by this episode?
If I did, I was traumatized by so many other things that I could hardly tell.
So at no point did you find yourself repeating, "It's only an episode. It's only an episode. It's only an episode."
No, I did not repeat to myself, "It's just a show. I should really just relax."
Yeah, because sometimes shows have bad episodes. This happens, as indeed so do people. People have bad episodes too.
That's true. That's very true. Some people have nothing but bad episodes, but some people just have them occasionally. And even your favorite show can put out a few stinkers.
Mm-hmm. But the best part of this episode is indeed the prologue, in which they announce that this is a rerun or encore presentation of Gamera versus Guiron. And famously, Joel tells the audience, "Repeat to yourself, it's only a movie, only a movie, only a movie."
It's just a movie.
Hilarious.
It's just a movie.
Better than 60 Minutes.
We talked a little bit about this on Slack, and you told me you weren't totally familiar with it?
Well, I just assumed it was a reference to the theme song, which tells you to repeat to yourself, "It's just a show. You should really just relax," etc.
But no, that is famously the tagline for the film Last House on the Left, which is, for a terrible, terrible, overrated movie made by a very talented director, Wes Craven. Despite that, I mean, it's terrible. But that ad campaign where they were just outlining, it's like, "This is what the movie's about. These are the crimes you will see. These are normal people driven to extreme circumstances. If you feel the need to faint, repeat to yourself, it's only a movie, only a movie, only a movie." One of the greatest trailers ever made.
Yeah, that sounds very memorable.
Yeah, and I was wondering if, in one's own experience, were there particular trailers that struck you as good, as bad, as ugly, as things that stayed with you that either made you compelled to see the movie or just never got you to forget? Like, what bits of ad copy or stylish storytelling kind of stuck in your memory over the years?
Ooh, I'm not as much of an expert on this sort of thing as you are. I will say I had the opposite experience once.
Oh.
And it isn't even really sort of the ad campaign around the movie that did this, but back around the time when this episode came out, there was a little movie called The Crying Game. Actually, maybe it was a few years later. But still, there was a crying game. And the big thing about the crying game was that no one was supposed to reveal the dramatic twist. And it was all hyped up. And everyone would say, please, go see the movie. It's really interesting. But I can't tell you anything about it. I must not reveal the dramatic twist. And I was intrigued a little bit because, like, what is so interesting? Nobody had revealed it. And yet people seemed to like the movie. And I thought, maybe I'll go see it. And I waited and waited. And it was about 2 days before the Oscars. And I was watching a little Oscars recap, and it was up for something or other. And at that point, the movie had been out for a little while, but it was still in theaters because it had Oscar momentum. And I think I was literally going to go see it that afternoon when I caught the Siskel and Ebert, let's round up the Oscar contenders. And they were, I guess, willing to tell the secret at that point. And the secret, I realized, was that, the lady is a dude, right? That's the whole point of this movie, is that, what's his toes? Chris Ray?
I think his name was Chris Ray. Yeah, I remember it led to a brief acting career where he played the sun god Ra in the movie Stargate.
Yes, which I actually did see later on.
What?
Yeah, I saw Stargate.
Of all the Kurt Russell movies to watch, you picked the worst one. And I've seen Captain Ron.
I didn't pay a lot to see it.
Well, not with money, but with time and life and your soul.
But yeah, so Christopher Ray was playing a man who is in, well, I don't know, he presents as a woman in the clips. But I had caught on to that in the clips. I was like, oh yeah, that's just a dude.
No.
I didn't realize that was the big secret. I just thought you were supposed to know that because prominent Adam's apple and so forth. Mm-hmm. So when I realized that was the big secret, and I was like, oh, I just got so disgusted with the entire concept of this movie. But I did not go and see it, and I still haven't seen it, and maybe it's fine, and maybe it isn't. I no longer care. That ad campaign is old. But the promises it promised, and then what that promise turned out to be all about, really got under my skin.
Now, it's interesting that you mentioned that no one revealed the ending, because one critic did, but did it in a really subtle way.
Okay.
Yeah. There is, I forget which critic this was, but I remember reading this in Roger Ebert's question and answers column. And I believe Ebert was taking this man to task or what have you. But one review that was a little oddly worded, but there was nothing strange about it. Eventually, someone pieced together the fact that if you took the first letter of every sentence in this short review, it spelled out, he is a she.
Oh, it's one of those.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's neat. I mean, if awkwardly phrased. And
yes. Things you wouldn't do now.
But I always like it when people sneak in acrostics and so forth into their reviews. That's always fun. So that was what came to my impoverished mind. What other standout examples of catchy ad campaigns were you thinking of?
Oh, man. There's so many good ones. And naturally, the best trailers belong, of course, to the best genre, which is, of course, the horror genre.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. Because, damn it, making a horror movie, I mean, that's one thing. But making a great ad campaign, it's fun and it's surprisingly easy, as you will learn later. But but there's a little bit of, you gotta have showmanship, you gotta have chutzpah, and nobody had more showmanship or chutzpah in the history of the world than a man named William Castle.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you familiar with William Castle?
I mean, I've heard the name.
Oh, well, of course, because he directed The Tingler.
Yes, that's right.
He directed The Tingler.
As covered by the Mads recently.
Yes. And William Castle's whole thing is that he was king of the gimmicks. And there are a ton of trailers that are just him sitting in a chair, smoking a big cigar, going, oh, hello, I'm William Castle. You may remember me as the greatest movie director who ever lived. Now I've got a new picture for you. It's got thrills, it's got spills, and chills. However, I can't bear to show you a single clip. And, one famous one is a film called Mr. Sardonicus. in which the title character, Mr. Sardonicus, who is disfigured. In fact, it's so scary that, we cannot bear to reveal what Mr. Sardonicus looks like. But that's not the gimmick. The gimmick is the punishment poll, which the trailer outlines. Every audience member will be given a thumbs up or thumbs down card, and depending on the vote, they will either get an ending in which Mr. Sardonicus goes free or in which Mr. Sardonicus is punished.
Oh, wow.
There was no second ending.
Right.
Mr. Sardonicus always got it because William Castle knew what people wanted.
That's like, so you know about The Mystery of Edwin Drood, right?
Oh, that sounds familiar, but I can't figure out what it is right now.
So it is a novel by Charles Dickens that was unfinished, I believe, when he died, and they made it into a musical. And it went on Broadway in the mid-'80s. And the gimmick was that it had multiple endings that the audience would vote on as to who the baddie was. Mm-hmm. And the story that I've heard about this is that, you had a bunch of different people who were likely to be the audience voted baddie, but nobody ever voted for the obvious bad guy. There's like the one who is, chewing the scenery and so forth because he was so evil. And no, but everybody's like, no, we're too smart for this. He's clearly not the bad guy. He's just meant to be bad so that we'd fall for it. Until one day, the audience voted for that one. And it was like, oh no, we don't remember how that ending goes. We don't rehearse this ending. We've been doing this show for 2 years and it's never come up. So they had to quickly look over their notes and do the best they could with it. I don't know if that story is true or not, but I love it.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing about making music about Drood, because didn't no one know who he was or what he was doing? This is all about going for a stretch this episode.
Yeah.
But yes, trailers
For sale or rent.
The creepy part of that song, as pointed out by Norm Macdonald, is that the guy who is king of the road knows all the children and all of their names and all the towns. It's like, why is that?
I think he's had a lot of kids.
Maybe. Maybe he just has a collection of little shoes. But with trailers, there are so many great ones. One that comes to mind is, and I can indeed send you the link if you wish, for a double feature of 2 horror films called I Drink Your Blood and I Eat Your Skin. And the plot of I Drink Your Blood, as gleefully outlined in the trailer, is that a child finds an animal with rabies and gets a sample of its blood and then puts that blood into a bunch of meat pies, which drives the entire town crazy.
Oh, yeah. That'll happen.
And so just the narrator gleefully going, the child with rabies putting into pies, now everyone murders. It's amazing. And that's actually a gift, and a gift that frankly is lost to time because nobody can do it anymore, is where are the gravelly voiced guys who used to do horror trailers? They used to get stage actors all the time to be like, hey, can you just do a really low register and read this menacing copy? And it would always be great. One of my favorite trailers of all time is just the Nightmare on Elm Street trailer, just because of the way the guy says, there's something wrong with the children on Elm Street. Something is coming to get them. It's amazing. That's the thing I love about horror, is that in a way, no horror movie has ever lived up to its trailer, ever. Because the trailer, people have so much fun promising you the impossible. And it's way more fun to promise the impossible. There's a horror comedy called Reanimator. It's one of my favorite movies, starring the great Jeffrey Combs, the Vincent Price of the 80s. And that's a fun horror comedy that never really leans into the fear that much. But the one of the trailers, which featured no clips from the movie at all, asked, it's like, are you faint of heart? Are you a victim of nightmares? Do not see Reanimator. It is way beyond the possibility of any rating. But sometimes things could be genuinely scary. Like there's a very fun werewolf movie made by noted MST3K detractor Joe Dante called The Howling. And The Howling was one of his first big hits. And The Howling did something so cool that you could kind of only pick up on it on headphones. For most of the trailers, but not all of them, most of the trailers would open and close with people whispering, and it was like digitally distorted. And it was people repeating the same phrase. We've got to tell the people. We've got to make them believe. We've got to tell the people. We've got to make them believe. And it works. It's like, what is this movie about? Yeah. But I didn't tell you about my favorite William Castle trailer, which I have to do.
Oh, okay.
I have to. William Castle obviously had a bit of a competition with his far more respectable competitor, Alfred Hitchcock. Alfred Hitchcock was the A-list scary guy. William Castle was the B-list scary guy. But, and in fact, there's a great picture of William Castle using a knife and fork, all dressed up, and he's clearly like cutting into Alfred Hitchcock's head like it's a Christmas turkey. Great picture. But William Castle made, after Psycho, a film called Homicidal. And Homicidal, the trailer features no clips from Homicidal, but it does feature William Castle interviewing people in a long lineup and then talking to them after they've seen the movie, supposedly. And it is there that it is revealed that you will receive a full refund for Homicidal if you choose to leave. However, to qualify for the full refund, you must sit for the entire duration of the rest of the movie in what was called the Coward's Corner, which was a big cardboard box labeled Coward's Corner. I love this man. I want to be William Castle when I grow up.
That's fantastic. Well, I refuse to talk any more about this episode. Do you have anything you want to say?
Yes, I suppose I have one final factoid about this particular episode and this particular release of Gamera versus Guiron.
It's Guiron. It's just Guiron.
Whatever. It's fun to say it like that.
Sure, have fun. It's certainly not what the movie says, which is Gurion.
But also half the time, Joel and the bots are saying Gameron. So
yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah, it's like spelling potato with an E. But yes, did you notice anything weird as Joel and the bots left the theater?
Well, as always, it plays a lot longer than you expect whenever they leave the theater in these KTMA days. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we got to see the entire end credits, including like a company card, whatever you call those, that you don't get to see in the season 3 episode.
Yeah. And I thought it was kind of interesting because I don't remember this logo, but I probably did see it a lot as a kid, is that there's like an early digital effect of a crown spinning and then eventually settles, and it says King Features Entertainment, which is what this dub was distributed from. And sure enough, that's the film and TV distribution arm of the Hearst-owned King Features Syndicate, which is the same King Features Syndicate that distributes Blondie and Popeye comics. And the entertainment arm can be seen at the end of Blondie movies, because those exist, Popeye cartoons, the syndicated run of the Beatles cartoon, which nobody remembers, but I grew up on in reruns, the TV show Defenders of the Earth, which has one of the greatest theme songs ever, and even some prints of An American Werewolf in London.
Huh. It looked a little familiar, and I know King Features from their like comics arm.
Yeah.
I guess they had a hand in this one.
Yeah. They would be the distributors for Sandy Frank. Sandy Frank was the production, and King Features was distribution.
Weird. I hope they made money off that.
Well, I mean, I used to see Gamera tapes, the Sandy Frank Gamera tapes, everywhere. And I think it was this particular movie that had the tagline, "Will Gamera defeat this beast, or will he become turtle soup?"
Right.
Yeah, I think it was this one. I would see that in the horror section all the time, and I'd be like, not today.
No, indeed.
And then I would rent Godzilla vs. Biollante for the 11th time.
If you've been affected by the issues on this show, if you, have something to say about this episode, or if you'd like to ask us anything, get in touch with us. Our website is itsjustashow.com, and we're on Twitter at itisjustashow. We'd love to hear from you. This show, in fact, is made possible by listeners just like you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. For as little as $1 an episode, you can help us research and record this show, and you can listen to all our... We didn't do much research for this episode, and listen to all our superfan bonus bits. Find out more at itsjustashow.com/Patreon or patreon.com/itsjustashow. And, of course, if you want to follow up on anything that we mentioned today, you'll find links in our show notes at itsjustashow.com/episode/108. I don't know if you were able to hear my cat just meow, but she thanks you too.
Well, I guess we're finally free of Gamera.
No, we aren't. We have the good episode to go. We have the thing that we've been looking forward to for 5 years.
Oh man, it's gotten to this point, Chris, where we've watched so many of these damn things. And it's like, is it even going to be worth it?
I know. I'm feeling so defeated by the continuing aggressive Gamuarying, a holiday that we created and we would love to celebrate. But it's so hard to make these episodes nowadays.
Yeah, like Christmas, you think it's going to be good, but it turns out to be a punishing amount of things you don't want.
I'm looking forward to rewatching Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
Okay. I'm looking forward to watching Richard Burton in Exorcist II, The Heretic.
Okay. We're doing season 3, episode 12, Gamera vs. Guiron. You knew that, right? You knew that, listeners. Yeah. Okay. You're not. Yeah. Good.
Yay. We're going to end our Gamera double features on a high note.
Yes. Hopefully they won't go back and...
Oh, please
There
no.
won't be 2 editions of the next Gamera movie they're doing.
Oh, no. Hopefully never.
All right. Until then.
Turtle bites, turtle chews.
He's dancing go-go style, whatever the line is. Take it away, Theme Squad. I'm tired of it all.
Wah, wah.